Hey friends, and welcome to another episode of Field Notes, Insights and Observations for the Travel Marketer. My name is Eric Hulkran from the Oregon Governor's Conference on Tourism, and in this episode, we're talking with Nate Wyeth. He is the Chief of Staff for Visit Bend, and we're going to talk about the importance of community, sustainability, and how those two play together when you're also trying to serve the individuals in that community and your partners. And as I said, our guest on this episode, Nate, my friend, how are you?
I'm well, just enjoying all the buzz at the Governor's Conference this year. And
How is this going for you?
It's great. It's a great time for our world to come together, and a lot of folks are coming off of a legislative session that was a little bit defeating for the industry. So mixed spirits around, but I think getting everybody together in the room understands that we are better together and that we can identify a lot of solutions. We're a nimble group of folks who's solutions oriented.
So, Nate, the place I want to start with you is on your LinkedIn. You talk that you have been wrestling with this question for 2 decades, and this idea that I want to make sure I get it right, that like, how can organizations grow in ways that benefit the places and the people that they serve? And you even sat down before we even started and sort of started to go into that, where I'm like, no, let's make sure we record this part. But can you talk to me about this meditation and where it came from and why it is kind of your North Star, if you will, of what you do and why you do it?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think for us, we understand that community has to come first. We understand that the community feels the impacts of tourism, whether that's community members, whether that's local organizations, whether that's our infrastructure or our wildlife. And if we don't make it a priority to put our community first, we have no destination that's worth promoting 20, 30 future generations from now, right? And so that's why community impact and our community first approach is my North Star to understanding how we can do our work to best benefit the community.
Now, for other DMOs that might hear that, you know, how do they leverage that? Because here in Portland and Oregon at large, right, like that sort of messaging, you're going to have fans, right? But there are many other DMOs across the country where they might not necessarily have that long-term vision for sustainability and making sure that, you know, as you were talking about before we started, like that kind of cyclical relationship, the communities to the place to the, right? So what's your thesis to, you know, gain fans that might not be their natural gear? Nothing wrong with where they're coming from, but they might not be naturally community focused.
Yeah, no, and I understand, right? We have to think about near-term wins in order to help us set a foundation for long-term success. And so within all of that, there's a conversation about balance to be had and how we're weighing the impacts, both positive and negative, of the work that we do. And so when you have a community like Portland, for example, right, where folks are rallying around, we just listened to the mayor this morning talk about how big of a fan of tourism they are and how important it is for Portland's revitalization. But then you have these communities out in Eastern Oregon that are really struggling to figure out how to pay for their city government to run. And tourism can be a solution for all of those things. And it's a spectrum. And as part of that, you know, thinking about the fact that if we're making these investments into tourism, we have to be able to set ourselves up really long term. And sustainability is rooted in this word sustain, right? And that means to think about those long-term gains and understanding, you know, I have this dream that I could come to help create a plan for an up-and-coming destination, and starting out right away by saying, okay, you have this pie. Let's peel 50% of that off. Let's use it to start marketing. Let's be intentional. Let's be thoughtful. Let's think about length of stay. Let's think about how much money people are spending, how much money is staying in the community. But let's also think about programs that we're setting up to ensure that this destination remains viable for, you know, future generations to come, like I said earlier. And all of that is really important, and that's where that balance comes in. And otherwise, you're going to spend a whole lot of money. It's like walking into a casino and putting $100 in the first slot machine you see, and then you walk another 10 feet down the road and you're like, oh, I could have maybe won some money here. And
Yes. Yeah.
That analogy can be really impactful when you think about how you're allocating resources, because everybody's excited. Tourism is an exciting world, and I think it's full of opportunity, but understanding how that opportunity impacts those long-term gains is really, really important.
How do you see 2026 shaping up for you, right? Like you just talked about the legislative session. We don't need to focus on that, but like for you personally, you seem like an overly optimistic human being who sees where we should be going. What does this year look and feel like for you?
Yeah, it's a lot of excitement, honestly. You know, I have to recognize those costs. I have to recognize how legislative changes might impact the work that we do, but I think I'm really excited to be surrounded by people who share my enthusiasm for the work that we do and understand the why behind it all, right? And so when we're surrounded by people who understand that it's not just about the economic impact, that it's about taking care of the places and the people who take care of us, we can be so much better.
When you get in a room where people might not be as well versed in what you're talking about as you are, like, what does it feel like when you feel them figure it out, where you get that aha moment? What's that like for you when you bump into somebody and they're like, oh wait, that is the way we should, hang on, you sir, tell me more?
Yeah, it's great, and I've had a lot of opportunities to travel around the country and speak about that, and it's really impactful. It makes me feel like I'm part of something bigger than myself, and when other people can understand it too, we create a movement, and when we create a movement, it's better for a lot of people beyond just who we are, or our immediate friends and family, or our immediate community.
What is it about this place, if you could, and this might be a totally unfair question, but there's something here, right? What is it about this place that creates that kind of mindset that you have, right? Where you're thinking about something that isn't your finite lifespan, your finite expenditure, your finite consumables. You're not thinking about the finite, right? And you're not the first person to sit here today that has kind of like that same. What is it about this place?
It's the people. It's 100% the people. It's people that show up every day, who care about this place, who show up in uncomfortable situations, who want to have these difficult conversations, and understand that when we can sit down face to face and hash it out and walk through our differences, there's a lot of commonality that we might not see on the surface level, and that's what allows us to do the work in a more impactful way.
So you have the self-awareness to have come up with your North Star, as we've talked about. But if somebody is listening to this and they're like, I have this place, we have these things, and I don't want these things to be gone or broken or whatever in the next 10 or 20 years, what is your advice to them of how to get because one of the things that I think is so compelling about you in the 8 minutes that we've been talking, right, is that you instantly know how to explain this, right? You instantly know how to get people on your side because you've trained your mind that this is how I look at the Pepsi can that you're drinking and where that Pepsi can is going to go, how long it's going to sit there, what happens if you don't put it in recycling. Like, I have all of that in my head, right? If somebody's hearing this and they're like, that needs to be an important part of my life, how do they start thinking deeper about that and then building systems that they can get fans in their DMO to do the same?
Yeah. Oh man, I was talking to somebody the other day, and and they had just come away. They were late to a meeting because their toddler was having a temper tantrum.
Sure.
And we got into talking about where we're at in this economy right now. I think, and especially in the DMO world, is we're a little bit like a toddler on a sugar high. And if you think about that, and a lot of people can relate to that situation. I don't have any kids myself, but I have a lot of friends, and I have some nieces and nephews, and I've been through that. And you have to manage it. And when you think about how you manage that, you have to think about what comes next. And when you think about what comes next, that's when you can start making those long-term decisions and having those conversations and say, okay, we have to get through this place that we're in right now. This place that we're in right now might be really good. It might be really bad. It might be somewhere in the middle. And understanding all of that helps us understand what we're going to do, what comes next. When the toddler comes off the sugar high, is it going to be like another temper tantrum? Is the kid going to take a nap, or are we going to have an opportunity to go out and play?
Yes.
And you can apply that to the DMO world and to the tourism world and to the economy right now. And we can take this moment in time that we have right now to understand what we're going to do next. And I think so often, especially folks in our industry, we're so quick to just move on to the next thing. Check it off the list, move on to the next thing. And what we're not doing is taking time to not only celebrate our successes, but also doing those postmortems to really look at like what was successful, what wasn't, what do we want to do better. I'm a big fan of learning by failing. And because of all of that, I can apply what I have learned to be better the next time, because we're humans. We're imperfect with everything that we do. And as part of that, we owe it to ourselves and we owe it to one another to learn from our failures and be better the next time.
So Nate, one of the things I've been doing today is, because I have so many fun conversations, I've been asking the person sitting in the chair to leave a question for the next person. So when you're done, I'm going to have you ask a question to the next person, but I don't tell you who it is. So you just have to ask them the question. So your question is, and it's funny how many times this is like perfectly aligned. what ways are you collaborating or looking to collaborate with partners in your region or cross-regionally?
Yeah, well, so we in Bend, we are a citywide DMO. In the state of Oregon, we have the structure that rolls up from us to regional DMOs to the statewide level, and so we understand that. I make a off-color joke sometimes that we don't attach shock collars to visitors' necks when they come to Bend, right? Because we understand that Bend is a great base camp, but people are traveling during their day travels. They might stay overnight, and might go 100 miles away here or there, and so they have impacts in all these other places, and positive and negative, right? And so whenever we sit down to have a conversation, it's not in our own little silo of our Bend community. We're talking with regional partners. We're talking with our tribal partners. We're talking with our tour providers. We're talking with our first responders and our land managers and all of those folks to understand that if we want to roll out a program or a new advertising campaign, or we're talking about our grant funding, we understand that those impacts are felt far and wide, and so it's really important to have those folks at the table when we're having those conversations so that we can make the right decisions that benefit everybody within that balance.
Love it. Nate, thanks so much for the time.
Thank you.